My name is Gary Chrones. I served in the U.S. Navy from 1985 to 1996.
Well, why did you join the Navy?
I wanted to go ahead and serve my country. I also wanted to go ahead and get out of New York. And I wanted to be able to go ahead and, I didn't feel as though college was the right thing for me at the time. I needed to go ahead and take some time and figure out what I wanted to go ahead and do. And the military seemed like the place for me to go ahead and figure that out. Give me some time to get into it.
Where were you stationed?
Oh boy. Well, I managed to go ahead and live in Chicago, Great Lakes, Waukegan for a little bit. I lived in San Diego, California. I lived in Port Hueneme, California with the military. I went from there to Georgia. And then from Georgia, I ended up in Jacksonville, Florida. And then that's where I actually exited the service, was in Jacksonville, Florida. So kind of all over the United States, West Coast and East Coast.
Was your training rough or easy for you?
Oh, it wasn't easy at all, and it was very rough. One of the classes that I went through, we had 147 individuals who tried out for Class 143, and out of that, 27 of them actually made it through. I was one of 27 to actually finish, starting with a class of 147. The training was, that beginner training was 6 months in length and had 3 different phases involved with it. After that, that's kind of when you really kind of learn what it is that you're doing in the military, but you definitely have to go ahead and go into it knowing that it's, depending on what you want to do in the service, that you're prepared for it.
All right. Did you meet anybody that impacted you in your service?
Yeah. There's a number of, I think you can probably remember the ones that you least liked the most in the military, but there are certainly ones that stand out. I had a Chief, Dean Ray, and he was, by far, if I was to look for anybody that I needed to go ahead and serve under, he was the best chief that I had ever served with in the military. Now, past that, I've had a number of commanders and captains who have led by example, and certainly are ones that garnered a tremendous amount of respect from me. One in particular, Captain Pete. Captain Pete tried to get out of the military during the global war on terror, and his services were needed so greatly to our country that they wouldn't let him out of service. He had to stay in, and he had probably close to 40 years of service before it was over. This guy, Captain Pete, led by example. He actually lost one of his legs in a skydiving a training accident, and still, to the day that he retired, would still go ahead and go out and run in PT with the troops with his prosthetic. I mean, he's a man that you would want to follow in a battle.
Any stories or events that really impacted you during the service?
We did a lot of operations during the first Gulf War in 1990, actually before the Gulf War started, when it was Desert Shield, before it became Desert Storm. And the camaraderie and the friendships that were made with the individuals on the missions that we went on, it was a very tight group. And these are friends and brothers of mine that I'm still actively in touch with today, and will continue to be until they put me in the ground.
Did your service influence your career later in life?
I never thought I would be doing what I'm doing now after knowing what I had done then. But to answer that directly, yes. If I hadn't have gone through the trials and hadn't gone through the training and hadn't gone through the discipline, I don't feel as though I would be as successful as I am today. And I consider myself to be very successful at what I do.
Was your life life changed by your experience?
Yes, it was very much changed by my experience. It did take me some time to go ahead and realize what it really meant, and I managed to know now that I miss it a lot more now that I'm not involved in it on a daily basis than I ever thought when I was going through it at the time.
Did you, how did you feel when you came home?
Tired. Trying to find my way, trying to go ahead and trying to associate myself into the civilian community was a little bit difficult, and it took several years before I kind of felt my feet underneath me. The transition was a little bit tough.
So why did you choose the Navy specifically?
Because I wanted to go into naval special warfare. I wanted to go into a specific field, and I wanted to do something very specific that I felt as though met my athletic abilities at the time.
Did you have any emotional stress during training?
I probably started out with a mullet before I went into the military and then lost all of my hair. So I don't know if that had to do with the training or not, but as far as stress is concerned, I'm a very high-strung individual, and I still have difficulty being very patient as far as that's concerned, and it's suited my abilities. So I'm very type A, very alpha male.
So, was the food good, bad?
I could eat as much as I wanted. You get meat 3 meals a day. It's really conducive to making you fat. Okay, but that being said, when you're out in the desert, or if you're out on the water or in a small boat somewhere, it's not like you can go ahead and have somebody cooking for you. You adapt, you improvise, you overcome. The food was fine, you know, and you enjoyed it whenever you could go ahead and get it. A lot of salt, a lot of coffee, yeah, a lot of black coffee. I drink a lot of coffee with sugar and milk now, but it was all black then.
So, during training, like anything that really stood out to you during training?
The heart of the people that I was training with, the fact that there was no quit left in any of them, the fact that they all knew what was at stake as much as the next person next to you, and that they all wanted to go ahead and do their very best to go ahead and serve what it was that we were doing, truly makes it a brotherhood that that sets itself apart from other things within the military.